I know we spend a lot of time wondering what's going on in Washington and, being swept up in some of the drama that's created by some of those races. And really, the impact to your daily life is here locally. It's with your own city council and your own Utah state representatives really impact your liberties and your life way more than they do at the federal level. They've got to hear from our residents to understand that the impacts that some of these decisions have on them. So I'd really encourage you to be active in understanding what the legislature's doing.
Welcome to Herrimanology,
the official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Thursday, January 25th here at the City Hall, the day after a city council meeting, and a lot of really interesting things that happened last night. We'll get into that. I'm John LaFollette, the communications manager for Herriman City, joined today by Councilmember Sherrie Ohrn. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for letting me be here.
So Councilmember Ohrn represents District 3, which is which part of the city?
Well, we started out way west on 7530 West, kind of the farthest west edge of the city, and then just kind of a big chunk kind of out of the center, clear up to around Blackridge Reservoir.
Let's talk about some of the points from the city council meeting last night. One voting item was the approval of a text amendment to the city's land development code. What was that all about?
Sure. Last year, during the legislative session, Senator Fillmore had a bill that streamlined the plat review for subdivisions and things like that in our community. And the desire behind it is to really help so that when developers go into different communities, it's still a seamless kind of process. They understand it. It kind of speeds up the process so things don't get delayed, buildings don't get delayed. Obviously, there's a cost anytime it's associated with delays, so we want to try and avoid those types of things. I think Herriman does a really good job with that. There wasn't really a lot of changes that had to be made, just some tweaks here and there to really make sure we are in compliance with that new rule. And we did that last night. There'll be probably some additional changes to a few other ordinances. The next phase of that is to really go through our other ordinances and make sure that there wasn't some language in a different ordinance that would contradict what was done last night.
And speaking of legislative, you had an interesting point that you made about the legislative session and things that cities can do or things that cities can afford to do versus things that the state or the county or regional entities have, and how residents can get involved for different things that affect them, but maybe that are overseen by different levels of government.
Yeah. So I'm really concerned about some of the recent legislation that goes along with land use authority. Local cities and towns should have land use authority. The purpose is because they are directly in contact with their residents. They live it day in and day out of the things that are affecting their community. Our responsibility is to make sure we plan for infrastructure, transportation, water, sewer, all those types of things that are necessary for us to have a quality of life. And so we create our master plans, and then we overlay those with transportation, infrastructure plans, water plans, everything that makes that a viable community. And when we get usurped by mandates at the state level, it really throws a big wrench into everything that's planned for. And the problem is a lot of these mandates really come unfunded. And we simply don't have the resources, the funding available to us like at the state level.
Contact your representatives. We have senators and representatives who have Herriman residents as their constituents. And you can find their contact information. And it's important to make your voice heard at all levels of government.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And I know sometimes people get a little bit soured because they think, oh, it doesn't matter what I say, but it does matter what you say. Really, these people aren't there to take over your land use or do anything that they really feel like causes harm. They're just trying to make decisions that they think would solve a problem. And oftentimes what happens is the trickle-down effect is just really harmful to communities. But they really, truly are there to represent you. I respect and appreciate their efforts and their willingness to serve our community and serve our residents. But they've got to hear from our residents to understand that the impacts that some of these decisions have on them. So I'd really encourage you to be active in understanding what the legislature is doing. I know we spend a lot of time wondering what's going on in Washington and, being swept up in some of the drama that's created by some of those races. And really, the impact to your daily life is here locally. It's with your own city council and your own town representatives. Your Utah state representatives really impact your liberties and your life way more than they do at the federal level.
Let's talk about a couple of really neat recognitions the city council had last night. First was a group of community members who volunteer their time with the county's Meals on Wheels program.
I can't remember the exact number, 8 or 9 people in our community that reached out because we weren't actually having service to Herriman. We were having to go to Riverton to get the meals and things like that. So they really, Wendy Hill, she really started that effort to make sure that we had an opportunity for our residents to be receiving those meals. They get those meals and they can bring you a meal every lunchtime from Monday through Friday and drop that off. It's such a great opportunity for our seniors because anybody that's homebound really, because it not only gives them a warm, nutritious meal, but it also has somebody popping in on them once a day and just really seeing them. And so I'm sure that there might be people out there who don't know about it or could really use that service. So I'd really encourage them to reach out to Salt Lake County Aging Services and go through the process to see, if you have a loved one that you work and you can't get to there all the time and you'd like for them to, have advantage of that service, I would really encourage you to do that. And just a really big shout out to the wonderful people who are willing to spend their time and volunteer to make their lives a little bit better.
The other recognition was for the girls' soccer teams at Mountain Ridge High School and Herriman High School. What was that all about?
Yeah, so the grudge match is how they called it, because obviously these are 2 high schools in our community, and so they had a little rival match coming up, and one of the girls on the soccer team was trying to figure out how to make it, a better experience, and so she looked into it, and with the assistance of her coach, and they kind of got behind an idea that had kind of been tried previously with just a 3-on-3 soccer, and they proposed it to the Herriman High School soccer team, and they kind of had a competition to see who could raise the most money for a family that needed it that's going through cancer. And so they were raised almost $10,000. So just isn't that cool? Just shy of that. And so they turned this little grudge match into something really productive. It brought them closer and really taught them the value of community and the way that you can help your community. Everybody has the ability to do that.
Yeah. A couple of work meeting items that the public is going to be aware of one way or another here. Let's first talk about Blackridge Reservoir. So a very popular amenity up in your area, up on the hillside. That gets a lot of use during the summer months, especially on weekends and on holidays. There are a lot of people who go up there, and there's some issues, frankly, with the concentration of so many people, and neighborhood residents have worked with the city on what are some solutions where we can keep this amenity open for people to enjoy and mitigate some of the concerns there.
Sure. So I've been able to serve on the council for 6 years now, and I've never had a year that we haven't talked about Blackridge Reservoir because there's always some issues that are associated with it because it's a really popular amenity. People like to go there, and the word is out, not just to people in Herriman. So we have a lot of people from out of our area coming and using the reservoir, and it creates issues with overcrowding, with not enough parking, nuisances of various kinds our police officers have to respond to. So then it becomes a financial impact to our community. So a few years ago, we created a parking permit area. You can park there, but you have to have a permit, and the people who live in that area are allowed to access the parking permits. And then those who are not would be ticketed and fined for parking those areas. It kind of works. It kind of doesn't, sure, because we still have to have our officers up there very often, and it really hasn't helped with the maybe overuse of the reservoir to where it just gets too crowded. And so we've been contemplating different things. The decision, well, what was talked about in work meeting, and the decision will be made final in a regular city council meeting, but was that we would start making the parking lot a parking lot where you pay to park. So you'd have to come in, what was contemplated last night was a $15 fee to come in and park there. When you leave, somebody else could come in and pay the $15 fee, but once the parking lot's full, the parking lot's full. The idea is to expand some of the parking permit area a little bit broader so that if they're not being able to park in the parking lot, they're not just illegally parking in some of the neighborhoods and impacting those residents. So that was discussed. In the past, the residents who lived there were charged a fee to come in and access the parking permits, and so it was discussed that we would eliminate that fee. But all of these changes that we discussed last night will be considered during a public hearing process, which we're really excited about because our job is really to be representatives of the public. So I would just really encourage people to come in and give us your feedback during those public hearings. On February 28th, we'll be having the hearing for the new parking fee that will be associated with the parking lot at Blackridge. And then there's also a fee that we charge to rent the pavilion there. So we'll have to adjust that commensurate with some of the benefits that come with that pavilion. So those public hearings will be held on February 28th. And then on March 13th, because we have a big parking problem in our city, and people violate that law, quite frankly, all over our city. A lot of it is concentrated around the reservoir, but we have parking violation all over our city, and we don't have these parking rules just because. We have them for safety reasons, and so they're important. Currently, the fine is $25, but it hasn't acted as a very good deterrent for people. And so we've decided that we really need to address that and see if we can increase that parking fee. I think that we discussed last night that it would be about $200 for the maximum. More likely it would be about $100 for a parking fee, but that's a really substantial increase. Yeah. But I think that the important thing to remember is you're breaking a law. I know it was discussed that if you go 1 to 9 miles over, so if you're going 1 mile of the speed limit and you get pulled over, your fine is $130. And so I think we're really within the realm of normal or reasonable to increase that. Then we discussed expanding the parking permit area, but all that stuff has to go through a public hearing process, and those two items will be heard on March 13th. So really come in. We really want to hear from you. That is our job, is simply to represent the people. So it's hard to represent you if we don't know how you feel. So come in and give us your feedback. If you can't attend that night, there's all kinds of ways. All of us can be contacted. Our information's on the website. You can also submit comment on the website as long as you do it through the proper channel, and it will be part of the record.
And lastly, the rodeo is coming up before we know it, and it'll be expanded a little bit. And last night talked about ticket prices for the rodeo. What was the discussion there?
Yeah. We're expanding to a third night, which I'm really excited about. So big shout out to our rodeo committee, staff, our stock contractor, all the people who are really involved in making sure that we have a really great rodeo here. We won an award for that last year, and we hope to just continue down that same path. I think that the better and better we get, the more and more sponsors we get. So either our prize money goes up or our ticket prices come down, or a balance of those types of things. But in order to not have to subsidize it a lot, then the ticket prices have had to come up a little bit, but they're certainly reasonable. Thursday night is our extra night now, and that will be our family night, so there'll be a discount for families on that night. So we're excited for that also, and super excited to have 3 days to this rodeo, and hopefully we just keep growing with attendance. And the fun thing about our rodeo too in the circuit is it is on a great weekend because it doesn't have a lot of competition, and cowboys and cowgirls are looking for a good rodeo to hit. So that really gives them a good option. So we get a lot of really good riders and really good competitors at our rodeo. So it makes it really really exciting to come and partake of it.
Rodeo tickets will go on sale here in probably just a few weeks. Watch Herriman City's social media channels, the website, and we'll put it on digital signage as well. So you'll be aware and be able to secure your tickets for Thursday or Friday or Saturday. 3 nights now, and that's coming up before we know it.
Yeah, and fair warning, it usually sells out, so get your tickets early.
Well, that's all for Herrimanology today. Thank you to Councilmember Sherrie Ohrn for joining, and thanks for watching or listening, however you're consuming Herrimanology, and we'll catch you next time.